All right, so part two, why invest in Toledo? The first big question I usually get is, well, what is Toledo? Some people know where it is on a map, others don't. They just know like, hey, I hear people are investing there. So Toledo itself is 265,000 people. We are, I would consider, a mid-sized Midwest city. We have about 111,000 people in the suburbs. That's going to be your Sylvania, Holland, Maumee, Perrysburg, Rossford, Oregon. And there's two major reasons why people choose to invest in Toledo. One of them is the pretty obvious reason is the low point of entry when it comes to cost. A 3-bedroom, 1-bath house here in West Toledo runs about $130,000. I lived in Seattle for 5 years. That same house is probably about $600,000 out there right now. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And if you live in these areas, you know this. So that's the first one. The second one is the housing culture here in Toledo is that of renters. So if we're talking the bigger pockets, A, B, C, D property class scale. A is going to be your high-end suburbs, white picket fences, McMansions, and D class is light boarded up houses and vacant lots. The rentals are going to be in your C and D class areas. There are some in the A's and B's, but it's far and few between. And then you get away from the core of investing in Toledo, which is cash flow. Okay. This is not an appreciation market. You cannot buy a house here and then in 2 years sell it and make $40,000, $50,000. That is not us. It's not house hunters. It is steady, long-term cash flow, boring, simple, but it works. So when it does come to appreciation, yes, we do have appreciation. I would say that it keeps up with inflation in the C class, strictly cash flow areas. Now, if you get up into your C plus, B minus type areas, yeah, you can still have cash flow. You're gonna have more appreciation. But again, I consider appreciation the absolute icing on the cake, okay? Now, our economy. We used to be called Baby Detroit. So we used to be completely dependent on the auto industry. And Toledo is part of what you would call the Rust Belt, which is going to be Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Akron, Cleveland, Toledo, Detroit. And when manufacturing really collapsed in the 90s, Toledo was part of that collapse. And we had a really hard time, but we did reinvent our entire economy, which has been awesome. So we still do have a lot of auto suppliers, the biggest one being Jeep. So Jeep is the pride and joy of Toledo and Northwest Ohio. You see people driving their Wranglers around, you got ducks in, on, everything. It's just ducks. So we do have Jeep, lots of auto. There is still manufacturing here. Libby Glass is one of the biggest glass manufacturers in the country and probably the world. And Toledo is one of its nicknames is the Glass City because we have such a history of producing glass. Now, the diversification has been in healthcare. So there are several healthcare systems here in Toledo. It is an aging population, and so we need healthcare. So that's one big part of our economy. And the other one is transportation. So if you look at a map of Ohio, you'll see I-75 runs north and south. It runs from essentially the Canadian border all the way to Florida. And you have the Ohio Turnpike, which is east-west. It's interstates 80 and 90. And because of being right at this intersection, you can get to most of the eastern United States within an 8-hour drive. So that is very attractive to trucking companies, warehousing, anything that involves transportation of goods. There's a lot of it here. And then the last big thing is the 1% rule is alive and well here in Toledo. If you're not familiar with that, the 1% rule is you buy a property for $100,000, you rent it out for $1,000, and that's 1%. You can still do that here. In other areas of the country, especially appreciation markets, you can barely sniff breaking even, let alone hitting that 1%. Now, is there a lot more to it than 1%? There is, but it's a great back of the envelope math point to say, all right, this property is worth digging into more. So that's why invest in Toledo. And next section, part 3, is going to be what is the housing in Toledo. There we go.